You've been lied to your entire life. And the worst part? You've been lying to yourself too. You were told that if you're kind, patient, soft, and humble, the world will reward you. But look around. That's not how reality works. The world does not respect the emotional. It respects the unshakable. People don't follow the one who cries. They follow the one who stands even when everything around them collapses. You've seen it with your own eyes. People with less talent, less kindness, less honesty, less morality. Yet they win. They get the respect. They get the attention. They get the opportunities. And do you know why? Because they learned something most people never learn. Confidence is earned through trials, through struggle, through relentless self-discipline, through moments where you were broken but refused to stay down. Confidence is not born from comfort. It comes from betrayal, from mistakes, from humiliation, from failure, from nights you broke down with no one around, and from mornings when you still got up and moved forward. The strongest people you know were not born strong. They were shattered, and after being shattered, they chose discipline over self-pity. They didn't wait for understanding. They studied how the world really works. They learned to control their emotions because they realized if emotions control you, people will control you. Most people live on reaction. They take everything personally. They talk too much. They get offended easily. They seek validation and then wonder why nobody respects them. But people with dark intelligence live on strategy. They observe before they speak. They stay calm when others panic. They calculate when others rush. And they understand that silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Machiavelli said it perfectly. Power does not belong to the strongest body, but to the strongest mind. True confidence is not loud. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. It is the kind of confidence that walks into a room and people feel it without a single word being spoken. And that's why you're here. Not to stay the same, but to evolve into someone who cannot be ignored. Someone whose presence demands respect without having to ask for it. In this video, you're going to learn 6 ruthless Machiavellian lessons that will make you dangerously confident. The type of confidence that is quiet, controlled, untouchable. Remember this, anyone can become confident if they understand the psychology behind it. You don't need to be born bold. You just need to understand how the world works and operate with that understanding. After this, people won't know exactly what changed, but they will feel it. Say it right now so your mind hears it. My confidence is untouchable. Number 1. Calculated opacity. I first realized the importance of this principle one evening during a family gathering where conversations swirled around past achievements, opinions, and future plans. I had always believed that honesty and full transparency would earn respect, so I began sharing every thought I had about my life, my goals, and even my insecurities. Almost immediately, I noticed subtle reactions, raised eyebrows, quiet whispers, and people sizing up my words. What I had thought was openness revealed more than I intended. I understood then that influence is not measured by how much you say, but by what you allow others to perceive. Calculated opacity is about mastering the delicate balance of revealing enough to inspire curiosity while keeping enough hidden to maintain control. Machiavelli once said, "Never reveal the whole of yourself. The more they know, the more they can exploit." And those words guided me as I reflected on my approach. The moment you overshare, you give away power. People can predict your reactions, your plans, and your vulnerabilities, which shifts control away from you. By choosing what to share, you not only protect your position, but also spark intrigue. In everyday life, this principle can be practiced in conversations with friends, family, or even strangers. You might answer questions strategically, revealing progress rather than your full process, or you may respond with enough insight to maintain credibility without exposing personal weaknesses. Calculated opacity also helps build authority without aggression. When you allow your actions and results to communicate your capability, instead of words, people naturally pay attention. Your presence gains weight because others sense depth and restraint. The skill requires observation, patience, and thoughtful judgment. Notice moments when you tend to overshare out of nervousness, excitement, or the desire to impress. Pause before speaking, assess the impact of each word, and decide whether it strengthens your position or undermines it. Over time, you will notice that curiosity increases, respect deepens, and influence expands simply because you speak with intention rather than habit. This approach transforms everyday interactions into opportunities to guide perception, inspire respect, and maintain strategic advantage without conflict. Comment this affirmation to embed the lesson. I reveal only what strengthens me. Number 2. Adaptive persona. Just 2 years ago, someone I trusted completely destroyed me. At first, I was in shock and overwhelmed with disappointment. I couldn't understand how someone I considered loyal could betray me so easily. In that moment, I tried to act normal, hide my emotions, and appear unaffected. But inside, I was shattered. That experience taught me something crucial. The people who survive, who remain strong, are the ones who can adjust themselves to circumstances without losing control. Adaptive persona is the ability to modify how you present yourself depending on the situation, understanding others' behavior, and staying emotionally steady even when chaos surrounds you. Machiavelli once said, "A wise man becomes many without ever losing himself." And I realized this was not just strategy, it was a survival skill. Acting rigidly or the same way in every situation can make you vulnerable. Sometimes you need to be calm, sometimes firm, sometimes silent, all depending on what the moment requires. I remember arguing with a close friend over something that seemed small, but quickly escalated. At first, I reacted the way I always had, forceful and defensive, thinking honesty and directness would resolve it. Instead, it made the conflict worse. Later, I adjusted my approach. I listened, measured my tone, mirrored their energy subtly, and responded calmly. The argument ended without further damage, and respect was restored. Adaptive persona doesn't mean being fake. It means staying true to your values while changing the way you express yourself. It works in friendships, family, social gatherings, and every interaction where emotions and expectations clash. Those who master this skill can navigate challenges gracefully, influence outcomes without aggression, and create opportunities that rigid behavior would never allow. Start practicing in small situations. Observe how people respond, match your tone to the context, and keep your core principles intact. Over time, your presence becomes magnetic because people feel understood and aligned with you. Comment this affirmation now to internalize the lesson. I adapt, I survive, I lead. Number 3. Your mouth is your enemy. I learned this lesson the hard way when I was 23, sitting in a conference room full of people who made more money in a month than I made in a year. I was so desperate to prove I belonged that I filled every pause with nervous chatter, every silence with desperate attempts at wit, and every glance with forced confidence I thought speaking more would show strength. But all it did was reveal insecurity. The truth is, control comes from knowing when to hold back, when to observe, and when to respond. People who react to every situation are controlled by the moment. People who detach are controlled by the outcome. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop being vulnerable to manipulation by emotion. When someone insults you, you don't need to respond. When someone threatens you, you don't need to panic. When someone challenges you, you don't need to justify yourself. Every time you give your energy away to reaction, you lose control. True confidence comes from being unmoved while chaos swirls around you. Machiavelli once said, "He who is prudent and restrains his words gains more than he who speaks freely." That lesson burned into me that day. I realized my desperate attempts to prove myself were my weakness. From that moment, I began practicing self-control, delaying responses, choosing silence over argument, observing without interrupting, letting my presence communicate more than my words ever could. Detachment sharpens perception. It allows you to see motives, detect lies, and recognize opportunities without clouding judgment with desire or fear. You learn to value what matters and ignore what does not. Relationships, deals, and conflicts are navigated better when emotion does not rule. Detachment does not make you cold. It makes you precise. It allows you to act decisively because your decisions are not tainted by ego or neediness. Your mind becomes your weapon, not your mouth. When you speak less, people pay more attention. When you act without showing desperation, people underestimate you, giving you advantage. The world is full of people who talk more than they think, and they always lose control first. If you want to build dangerous confidence, start practicing restraint now. Begin small, pause before replying, listen more than you speak, refuse to justify your feelings, and control the energy you give to others. Comment this affirmation below to reinforce it. I control my words. I control my life. Number 4. Principle of detachment. I first learned this lesson during a weekend gathering with friends where tension unexpectedly rose over a small misunderstanding. People began raising voices, pointing fingers, and reliving old disputes. My initial instinct was to jump in, defend myself, and clarify every misinterpretation. I spoke quickly, trying to prove I understood better, that my perspective mattered more, and that my reputation should remain untarnished. Almost immediately, I noticed that the more I reacted, the less influence I had. Emotions clouded judgment, and arguments escalated instead of resolving. That day, I realized that detachment, the ability to step back, observe, and respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively, was far more powerful than constant defense or explanation. Detachment does not mean indifference or lack of care. It means refusing to let emotions dictate actions or give others control over your mindset. Machiavelli once said, "He who is prudent and restrains his words gains more than he who speaks freely," and that insight anchored my approach. By remaining calm, I could notice patterns in behavior, detect intentions, and anticipate reactions without being drawn into unnecessary conflict. This perspective transformed the way I interacted with family, friends, and colleagues. In practice, detachment allows you to delay responses, observe carefully, and act strategically. When someone provokes you, you don't need to retaliate immediately. When criticism comes, you don't have to justify yourself on the spot. Every time you resist reaction, you maintain control over both your energy and the situation. I started experimenting with small actions, waiting before replying to heated messages, listening more than speaking during arguments, and choosing silence in situations where words might escalate tension. Over time, this practice revealed hidden motives, exposed opportunities for resolution, and strengthened my presence because others recognized calm authority. Detachment also sharpens decision-making. When emotions are removed from the equation, choices are clearer, priorities are evident, and outcomes are more predictable. You no longer act out of fear, ego, or impulsiveness, and people respond to your steadiness with trust and respect. True confidence emerges from this quiet control because you are not swayed by chaos or opinion. To internalize this lesson, begin by observing situations where you normally react immediately and consciously step back. Comment this affirmation to solidify the principle. I remain calm. I act with control. Number 5. Psychological echo. I learned this lesson during a brainstorming session with a team that had little trust in new ideas. Everyone was quick to dismiss suggestions, eager to dominate the conversation, and protective of their own perspectives. At first, I tried to assert my concepts forcefully, convinced that convincing arguments would earn respect. Instead, I was met with resistance and indifference, and I realized that facts alone never win influence. People follow those who make them feel understood. That's when I discovered the power of psychological echo, the subtle art of reflecting others' emotions, priorities, and perspectives without mimicking or mocking. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does not reveal what he understands about others. He uses it silently," and that became the guiding principle for every interaction I had thereafter. By carefully observing body language, tone, choice of words, and underlying motivations, I began to mirror energy and phrasing in ways that made others feel acknowledged. It is not imitation, it is understanding expressed strategically. When someone senses that you comprehend their concerns or values, they lower defenses and willingly align with your guidance. In meetings, this technique allows you to influence direction without confrontation. In personal relationships, it builds trust and loyalty. In negotiations, it creates cooperation and smoother outcomes. Psychological echo is subtle but incredibly powerful because people instinctively follow those who reflect them back accurately. The skill is cultivated through active listening, careful observation, and delayed responses that demonstrate awareness over time. You learn to guide conversations, influence decisions, and inspire collaboration without ever imposing authority. This principle transforms ordinary interactions into opportunities for strategic influence, enabling you to shape perception and behavior without conflict. Practicing psychological echo begins with noticing how people respond to your tone and phrasing, then adjusting in small ways to match their pace and priorities, while staying aligned with your objectives. It builds rapport, creates natural influence, and elevates confidence because you act from insight rather than impulse. Comment this affirmation to embed the lesson in your mind. I understand, I influence, I lead. Number 6. Ambiguous morality. I first encountered this lesson during a business deal that seemed simple on the surface, but was layered with competing interests, hidden agendas, and ethical dilemmas. I initially believed that doing what was right in the eyes of everyone involved would guarantee respect and success, so I hesitated to make tough decisions, fearing criticism or judgment. Within hours, it became evident that rigid morality was leaving me vulnerable. Parties with less scruples were advancing their position while I struggled to protect my objectives. That was the moment I grasped the essence of ambiguous morality. Understanding that the world is rarely black and white, and the strongest confidence comes from focusing on outcomes rather than appearances. Machiavelli once said, "A wise ruler should not keep faith when by doing so it would be against his interest." And I interpreted this to mean that strategic decisions sometimes require prioritizing results over conventional judgment. Ambiguous morality does not mean cruelty or exploitation. It means making choices that maximize effectiveness, while minimizing unnecessary risk, preserving your principles internally while navigating external realities pragmatically. In practice, this requires evaluating situations with a clear mind, separating emotions from consequences, and choosing actions that achieve objectives without exposing yourself unnecessarily. It could mean negotiating assertively when others expect compliance, protecting your resources, even if it appears defensive, or taking steps that are morally complex, but strategically essential. This principle allows you to act decisively where others hesitate, to maintain authority where strict adherence to rules would invite vulnerability, and to navigate ethical gray areas with intelligence rather than guilt. Leaders, strategists, and successful individuals consistently use ambiguous morality to secure advantage while preserving integrity in ways that outsiders rarely notice. The confidence derived from this approach is subtle but undeniable. People respect decisiveness and foresight, even when they do not understand the full reasoning behind it. To practice, start by examining scenarios where you feel torn between convention and effectiveness, weigh the long-term consequences, and act in ways that achieve results without compromising your core values. Your ability to balance principle and pragmatism creates influence, freedom, and resilience. Comment this affirmation to anchor the lesson. I act wisely. I achieve strategically. This completes the 6 ruthless lessons to make you dangerously confident. Apply them deliberately and watch your influence, control, and inner strength grow. Now that you've seen the 6 ruthless lessons, it's time to take action. Knowledge alone won't make you dangerously confident. It's what you do with it that counts. Choose one of these traits and commit to practicing it for the next 7 days. Don't just read about it, live it. Let it shape the way you observe, respond, and act in every moment. Remember, confidence is not something you are born with. It's something you cultivate through discipline, patience, and self-awareness. The world will test you. People will try to push you, provoke you, and see if you break. And here's the truth. You will only gain power over your life when you refuse to give your energy to things that do not serve you. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Let your calm presence make the chaos around you irrelevant. Use what you've learned to protect yourself, to sharpen your mind, and to remain untouchable in situations where others lose control. This is not about controlling others or seeking revenge. This is about controlling yourself, mastering your emotions, and creating a life where no one can dictate your value or your path. Comment below which one of these 6 lessons you will focus on first. Like this video if you found value in it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next step in mastering dark intelligence. The lessons don't end here. The next video will take you deeper into advanced strategies that only a few people truly